Hey everyone, it's Tremia, and I'm taking off my glasses. It's time for It's My Story, and this is going to be Joe's story. This is Joe, and she is in town visiting me this weekend. This weekend was Oklahoma's Walk for Lupus, and the state that Joe lives in does not have a walk. So she came down to visit and to do the walk with me, and we had perfect weather, and it was a wonderful time. And so we're going to hear Joe's stories this month. So we know your name.
Yes, I'm Joe, and I live in Friend, Nebraska.
Okay, and when were you diagnosed with lupus?
I was diagnosed with lupus in February of 97.
Okay.
February of 98, I'm sorry.
Okay. And what type of lupus were you diagnosed with?
Cantankerous, I think it is.
Cutaneous.
Cutaneous. And the first biopsy was of the eye.
Okay, so initially you started out with cutaneous lupus.
Vasculitis was first.
Okay, so vasculitis. And how did the vasculitis affect you? And what kind of treatment did they do for you to treat the vasculitis?
It affected and can affect all nerve endings and all blood vessels. It can affect all nerve endings and blood vessels. A lot of arthritis came along with it, but I don't know if that was the vasculitis or the lupus.
Okay. And how did they treat it? Did you already say?
Yeah.
Or my brain fog.
They treated it. My first medicines for everything was, of course, the good old prednisone, high doses of that, colchicine.
And tell them what colchicine is, because I wasn't aware of what it was.
Colchicine is an anti-malaria drug, but if you look it up in a PDR, it will tell you it's for leprosy.
So it's similar to Plaquenil, it's just a different...
Immune suppressant, yeah.
It's
yeah.
just a different... different drug.
Same category.
Okay. And after the vasculitis, you said that cutaneous lupus. So what happened then? What made them aware that you had cutaneous lupus?
That was the biopsy on my face that I wouldn't let them do the first time. The biopsy on my thumb showed the vasculitis. The biopsy of my nice wolf rash showed positive for that kind of lupus.
Okay. And how did they treat your cutaneous lupus?
Exactly how they were treating the vasculitis.
Okay.
They added one of the first medicines along with the prednisone and the colchicine was naproxen. It's a non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drug. I started on that.
They do any kind of creams? Or
yes.
anything?
Steroid creams, the highest you can get to.
Yeah. Was your rash itchy or?
Yes, itchy and burning right in through here, and I still can you see the scars? Yeah.
Okay. And after that, what came next?
I think came next was like high blood pressure, but the big thing that came next was the pain in my right lower back. And this would have been July of 99. And I didn't tell my rheumatologist until August of 99 about the pain. So needless to say, 2 weeks later I was scheduled for a renal biopsy. And you just don't want to jump in line on those every day because they are terrible. They don't give you anything for it. They don't give you a lorazepam. They give you nothing to relax it. And they do it with just a local. Have you had it done?
I've had a liver biopsy, which is they go through the rib and you're ouch,
yeah,
wide
you're
awake.
wide awake,
Yeah.
just with the local.
Yeah. Yeah.
That thing punctures that hole and tears just go.
Yeah.
Even if you don't want them to.
Yeah.
Well, we got the results of that back a couple of weeks later, and my right kidney was lupus nephritis, and I don't know how to pronounce the last name.
Erythematosis.
And at that time, the right kidney was at a stage 2.
And how many stages does lupus nephritis go up to?
4. 4 is when
Okay.
the kidneys shut down.
Okay. And I know that continued. It got worse for you.
Oh yeah. And because it got worse, then they added, well, I don't know if we skipped the blood pressure part, but my blood pressure got kind of out of control, and I started a blood pressure medicine.
And that was probably due to your kidneys, right?
I have no idea. But then they doubled my blood pressure and gave me a heart pill. And then they gave me strictly for my kidneys, they gave me Cozar, 50 milligram Cozar. Actually, they gave me 25, and of course I can never have enough of all those good meds, so within 6 months I was on 50 milligrams of it. It's supposed to help the heart not pump so hard that the blood pressure goes so high, because once the bottom number gets over 90, it's just eating away at those kidneys.
Okay, I didn't know that.
We're both learning stuff.
Yeah, that's what this is all about, learning.
Yes, ma'am.
And because it's hard for me to ask questions to you because your story is so different from mine.
Oh, yeah.
Because I've never had kidney involvement.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, which is unusual because that's the first thing usually that, you know, brings lupus to the forefront.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but I'm at a loss at, you know, lupus or kidney involvement.
I would like,
We're outside and the dogs are too.
I was going to tell you about something and I can't remember now what it was. It was on the line of the kidney thing.
Have you had any other problems besides, I mean, you've had enough, but other than the kidneys?
Oh, yes, and that reminds me. I was at work one day, and this is probably December of '99, just a couple months after my renal biopsies.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd had this headache. Never had a migraine before in my life, but it was right back here. But I had stopped in at this preschool place and helped the kids paint their pumpkins, and I blamed it on the pain, you know, because 2 weeks later I still had it. Well, I was at work and we went to break, and Patty, a friend of mine, was behind me, and I turned around and I said 3 words to her, don't even know what it was, to just talk back to her, and in that split second I veered completely off the sidewalk to the right and fell. Mm-hmm. So I think it probably got to my brain first and then the kidneys.
Yeah, it could have been your high blood pressure.
And this is what I was wanting to tell you a little bit earlier. Before they even knew I had high blood pressure, but I was about 3 or 4 weeks into my treatment, so we're talking November or December of '97. Bedroom's in the basement. I go to walk up the steps. Well, I go to walk from my bedroom into where the steps are, and I'm taking steps left. And I'm not telling my body to do that. I get to the stairs, and I start to go up them, and it was like they had weights on them. And I was going like this, and that's how I went clear up the steps and across my kitchen floor like that. And I stopped and I thought, they're going to think I'm crazy. Nobody is going to understand. But that probably is one of my worst experiences, because I didn't have any control of it, and I didn't know where those cues were coming from in there. Mm-hmm. But it's the vasculitis. I've had lots of MRIs, and they leave tiny little white focal points, as in 80 and 90-year-old people who have had lots of tiny strokes, those kind of little white things. Not like MS, but I have been tested for that lots of times. That was one of the scariest things, and I have never ever told anybody that.
How long did it last?
Not much more than then.
Uh-huh.
So I'm gonna say, because I laid right down on the couch, and when I got up 10 or 15 minutes later, it wasn't doing it anymore. But I do still do it. I will step to the side like I'm drunk. I will trip off the curb getting my mail. I fall down.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I've had instances like that too, and it's like and slurring of the speech,
Yes.
which I'm slurring right now. But
that's tiredness. There's a different,
and and that's scary.
It's real
because
scary.
It's like, is this a stroke?
Yep.
Is it something I need to take seriously? Is it just gonna pass by? Because with lupus, we get so used to one thing after the other, happening, that sometimes, we get tired of going to the doctor, going to the emergency room, going to the hospital every time we turn around.
Amen.
But, like something on this, that's serious business. And, it really needs to be, seen and dealt with. Although I'm guilty of not.
Me too. I mean, look how long I waited with that pain in my back from my kidney.
Mm-hmm.
And you know why. Because I knew I was just going to come home with a couple new medications. And I already had more than enough for 5 people. So why jump in that bin and bring it back home, you know?
And plus, they might raise up your prednisone.
Always.
Which we all just love.
Which also, in the first year of taking mine, gave me ocular hypertension, which is the starting of glaucoma.
Right.
And cataracts. So at 40 years old, I had cataracts right in the middle of both eyes and the back.
Yep. Okay, so like we've gone through the cutaneous lupus, which is lupus of the skin, basically. Vasculitis, which is inflammation of your vessels. I don't know what, or might be a better word than vessels, but
blood vessels.
Blood vessels. And also you have, and her nerve endings, and you've had lupus. You do have lupus nephritis. Is there anything else?
Oh yeah. You can't tell now because I've lost 32 pounds, but what is that when it...
Cushingoid.
Cushingoid. And I also...
See how she touches me?
I love her. That's why I touch her.
I'm the poster child for it right now, but I'm at the point to where I should start losing weight. So
Raynaud's syndrome.
Does it affect your hands or your feet? Because mine affect my feet.
Listen to this. It even affects my tongue.
Does it really? And
I've never told anybody but you.
Well, you just told the whole world.
They'll turn white, almost to the second knuckle. And if you don't have any fingernail polish on, even underneath they're white.
Yeah.
My toes do it almost clear back to here, and my tongue does it about that far from the tip.
Wow.
And that's crazy, but it just gets numb. And I go, that can't be, but I've never even told my doctor.
Okay, we've talked about all your symptoms of lupus and all that, but I know that you've had a problem as far as insurance.
Yes.
And I'd like you to tell your story about that.
Okay. When I got sick, I worked in reimbursement management at Salina Regional Medical Center. It is an open heart surgery facility, and I ran out of family medical leave. It is a 12-week rolling calendar kind of thing. And when I went one day past that, they let me go. When that happened, I had insurance through my spouse, But I was really well when he married me. I was a loan officer in a bank. That was before I got my job in reimbursement at the hospital. So I was completely healthy, and he wanted to take care of me. Of course he did. And after I lost my job, within a year, he divorced me. So basically, all I could do was draw my retirement to live on, because Stevie was only 15. So I had to support her and myself. And eventually, my retirement ran out. So from the time my retirement ran out to the time I met Tim, I got all my medicines. You fill out an application and you submit them to the we say pharmacies, but like AstraZeneca.
Yeah, the pharmaceutical companies.
Right, and you can get them free. So basically, I was getting all of my health care through free clinics, and that was it. So I went from having a neurologist, a nephrologist, an ophthalmologist, rheumatologist, and a primary care physician. At one time there were 7 doctors, to just being seen by whoever was volunteering that day at the clinic. It's real hard for them to treat a person who has a medical history that's that thick when you just meet them. So the care is never even possibly close to what you think it should be, or what you need. I applied for disability the day
Social Security disability.
Social Security disability the next day after losing my job. Actually, one of my bosses told me to. I was denied. I didn't qualify for SSI because I was married.
And that SSI is Social Security income.
Income, yes.
Okay.
And just a second. Within that first year of not working, my husband divorced me. And so I couldn't work. Didn't really have. So I lived off of my retirement until I met Tim. And then he needed somebody to, actually he travels for a living. He's only home 4 to 6 days a month. And he wanted somebody to take care of his house and his plants. And it was just the perfect opportunity for me, because I was within 15 feet of being homeless. And that gets real scary. I mean, you know you're not getting the kind of health care you need anyway, so you know your lupus is getting bigger than you. And then not knowing where you're going to sleep the next day is really hard. The bad thing about it is I had $118,000 worth of retirement. But you can only live off that for so long. I did pay for Cobra after my divorce,
which is outrageously
$380 a month, and then within 3 or 4 years, you can only do that for so long.
Right.
And then it stopped.
Right. So you filed for Social Security disability. What happened?
Within 6 months, I was denied.
Okay. And then did you appeal?
I did. And then they started sending me to their doctors. And I saw a dermatologist and a rheumatologist of theirs. And I think a year later, they didn't say I wasn't disabled. What they said was, we understand that you're disabled, but your condition is expected to respond within the next 6 months.
And so they denied your appeals. How many appeals did they deny?
4.
Okay. And after that, you stopped trying or appealing. I don't know how many appeals you're allowed, but what happened next with Social Security disability, and when did it happen?
What happened next was
Your denial was in what year?
the last denial.
Uh-huh.
I filed in 2007 was my last.
So she filed in 2003 and appealed through 2007. And during this time, she's totally disabled and not working. And then you refiled for Social Security disability
on November the 7th of 2011 because my doctor told me to.
Okay, so we made it all the way up to 2011, and they approved you.
Yes, they did, but not for Social Security disability because I had to. I got a print. Is it W-2? I believe. I got a printout from Social Security Administration with all my work history on it, and it said, and I wish I had it, but I will send you a copy of it.
Yeah, you can email me a copy.
What it said was, even if you are disabled at this time, you are not eligible for Social Security disability. And the reason is to qualify, you have to have 20 points of Social Security insurance paid in. That's what goes out of your check, SSI. 20 points within the last 10 years. The trick is 10 of those points have to be in the last 5 years.
And so the problem, therefore, is, they denied her, and she was totally disabled, unable to work in time. 5 years, more than 5 years passed before they approved her. So she didn't, according to Social Security, she did not work enough hours, did not pay in enough to her Social Security for her to receive it. But had they approved her when she initially went disabled,
or within the first 4 years,
or even within the first 4 years, there wouldn't have been a problem. But during that whole time, she was disabled, not able to work. Her points were falling off as the time went on. So now she does not qualify for Social Security disability based upon that, but you do receive
a Social Security income.
And what is the ironic thing about that?
It's about 1/3 of what I would have gotten from my disability that I paid in all my life for. I get, you don't mind if I say how much I get,
That's up to you.
I get less than $125 a week. If they'd have approved me in my first 5 years of filing, I would have got $895 for myself and half again that much for my daughter. And that they would have had to have gone back till 2003. So we're talking about more than $100,000.
And what's the requirements for proving disability? What's the difference in the requirements?
None whatsoever. Absolutely none.
So that's
that just makes you want to cheer, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Here's to getting screwed.
So
it's upsetting, isn't it? I can see it's upsetting you.
I mean, it is upsetting.
And it's not fair.
And I get asked a lot of questions about Social Security disability, through comments and messages on YouTube and through Facebook. And she did everything she possibly could do, to try to obtain her disability. So those of you that are asking, should I or should I not do it? yes, I mean, by all means, you know, start as soon as you possibly can, because you don't know what the outcome of Social Security disability is going to be to begin with, what your appeals are going to be to begin with, and how many years are going to fall in between. And because you don't want to end up in this is just not right. And so but I know Jo has done everything that she could do, and everybody needs to do what they can do also to make sure that you're covered and that you can get the benefits that are available to you. Because, I mean, you work to put the money into that account
all your life,
so you'll be covered. And then for it to be taken away from you, you know,
it's on my bucket list. I'm going to go through legal aid and see if there's even a way that I could fight it. Because I deserve that money. I worked for that money. And my daughter was 7 when I got sick. She deserves that money. You know, if I hadn't, my doctor told me to reapply, and that's what I did in November the 7th of 2011.
Mm-hmm.
But when they qualified me, I asked them why they didn't go back to 2003. And they said, because we go back to your last filing. So make sure you get legal advice before you ever refile again, because it drops everything off.
That's good. That's a good point. Okay. Well, Jo, thank you.
Oh, you're so welcome.
Thank you for coming to Oklahoma.
There's just one more thing I'd like to say.
Yes, please.
You know, people get a bad name who are on disability or handicapped. But I will tell you, you're looking at a person that had all this hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of retirement. I worked in a loan officer as a bank, in a bank as a loan officer, reimbursement management. I was a bookkeeper in a 96-bed nursing facility for almost 10 years. The only person in the office. I did all accounts receivable, all accounts payable, all employee records, everything, right down to the deposit. This right here could be you in the morning. You could wake up in the morning and be sicker than a dog, and it all starts. So we're not talking just about anybody who's ill. If you give to the Red Cross, we want you to do that. We need this awareness, because it could be you in the morning instead of me. Okay. By gum, I had to say that. You know, because even people who aren't interested in it, how do they know they're not going to wake up tomorrow and just, it's like waking up and jumping in the wrong line. You wake up and you say, okay, what line am I going to jump in this morning?
Right.
Is it the chemo line? The prednisone line? The
Tomorrow,
line?
my line is the chemo line. I'm not looking forward to it, but...
And I didn't want to tell you
it.
because I feel bad, but I just had my last one last Tuesday. And I'm good for 3 months. And I'm glad, because the methotrexate can take the hair. And it certainly hasn't. So, a few eyebrows, but not the head. I love you.
Love you too.
Thank you so much for telling this story.
Thank you for telling the story. And everybody, thank you for listening. And each story that I've done, this is the 3rd one, not including my own. We all have a lot that is common, and then things that are totally opposite, but it's all lupus. So listen and learn and do your research. So we're going to end here. Thank you, Jo.
You're welcome.
And we'll see you in the next video.